You have your own book written, Bhutan to Blacktown,
Yes.
which captures a very beautiful journey of your life. It is such an inspiring book. I've read like a bit of about of it. I
Yeah.
haven't really got the time to deep dive into
Yeah.
it. What inspired you to put that in words?
What inspired me, I think there are a number of reasons. Many of my colleagues at Telstra, I worked at Telstra for a number of years, and many of my well-wishers and other friends and colleagues who always ask me, when are you going to write your book? I thought it was my responsibility to honor them by writing this book. And this story had to be told. And Bhutan to Blacktown, and Nepal is in between actually, because I spent time in Nepal. So Bhutan to Blacktown, losing everything and finding Australia, is the other half of Bhutan's story.
Namaste and welcome to another episode of NepTalks powered by Maya Lounge. I'm so excited for today's conversation because we have with us a truly inspiring guest whose life journey is nothing short of remarkable achievements. Our guest, Dhungel, is a strength-based leadership practitioner, adjunct fellow at UTS, and the author of his own written book, Bhutan to Blacktown. His story takes us from refuge camps to boardrooms of Australia, showing us what resilience, dignity, and service looks like in action. From his early life in Bhutan to years spent in refuge camps, and finally building a new life here in Australia, Mr. Om has walked an extraordinary journey, one that has taken him from hardship to hope and from community work to boardrooms of Australia. In today's episode, we will be exploring his migration journey, the lessons he has learned about leadership, and his vision for community building. His philosophy, it's not what happens to you, but how you respond that defines you, has guided not only his own life, but also many emerging leaders he continues to mentor and support. So, without any further ado, let's dive in and welcome Mr. Om Dhungel to this episode of NepTalks. How are you today?
Very good, thank you. And how have you been?
Pretty excited to be here. A bit nervous as well.
No, don't worry, take it easy.
So, tell us something about you. A little bit, an introduction. मैले भन्दा बाहेकको केही भन्न मन छ भने. It's like,
Yeah, my name is Om Dhungel, and I've lived in this country for last 27 years now.
do you remember the first time that you arrived in Australia?
It was 25th of July, 1998. It was pretty cold.
1990. I was not even here.
You're born then?
No.
Okay.
If there's anything that you would like to say, like it's any the amount of hardship you have went through your life, the changes and the challenges, is any, would you like to take us back to the beginning and tell us something about it?
Okay, I'll have to go back a lot, behind. So I think I'll take you back a few, decades there. Personally, I was born in Bhutan, a very remote village in Bhutan. There was no electricity, no running water, not even a road. I actually first saw a motor vehicle. It was a used truck when I was 10 years old.
Oh, wow, okay.
However, thanks to good education, I went on to study electrical and electronics engineering in Bangladesh, trained in telecommunications in the United States and Japan, and went on to become the third senior most telecom engineer in the country. Now, this looks like a dream, but I think when you look back, that really almost became a dream, because overnight, way back in 1992, I was kept under surveillance despite being a senior civil servant. My own father was imprisoned, tortured, and since I was kept under surveillance, I couldn't leave the capital city and go out to my own village. Afterwards, when I learned that I was about to be arrested, I decided to leave the country, flee the country, leaving behind my wife and a 2-year-old daughter. And that was the best choice I had, to leave my daughter to save my life, hopefully hoping that I'll be able to save their life as well. So that's how our life dream was shattered, and I became a refugee. After that, we spent 6 years in Nepal. I focused on advocacy and education of children, helping children to go back to school, lobbying different governments to change improve the human rights situation in Bhutan and also to support refugees in Nepal. Again, I was a little bit crazy, perhaps too, ambitious. Despite being a refugee, I wanted to do an MBA. I'd already done an engineering, and I really desperately wanted to do an MBA. And somehow I made it happen. So I came to Australia in 1998 and started a new life here in Australia. So I think we'll leave it at that.
That is a really
As an
long list of
introduction.
achievements, and like, I mean, I think the main thing you said, ambitious. What drove you, to
Yeah.
achieve such a long list of achievements?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, hats off. Because at this point, I would be, like, I would be taking that as wow. But yeah, with that, more than that,
Yeah.
you have your own book written, Bhutan to Blacktown,
Yes.
which captures a very beautiful journey of your life.
Yeah.
And many readers might not know this, but it is such an inspiring book. I've read like a bit of about of it. I
Yeah.
haven't really got the time to deep dive into
Yeah.
it, but I'm really looking forward to read the whole book.
Yeah.
What inspired you to put that in words, and what would you say is a take for many readers?
Okay. Firstly, on what inspired me, I think there are a number of reasons, but mainly I think if I narrow down to maybe two reasons. One was to honor my friends, someone like Professor Jeff Scott, Professor Jeff Scott from Western Sydney University. Many of my colleagues at Telstra, I worked at Telstra for a number of years, and many of my well-wishers and other friends and colleagues who always ask me, when are you going to write your book? So many of my friends and colleagues thought that I had a book in me, and they were asking me when I was going to write a book. So I thought it was my responsibility to honor them by writing this book. But secondly, and most importantly, I think this story had to be told. My father, elderly father, was imprisoned and tortured, and he was imprisoned twice and allowed to leave on condition that he would leave the country. He was released from prison on condition that he would leave the country. And over 100,000 Bhutanese face similar circumstances. And Bhutan, evicted 1/7 of the country's population. Now, many of us outside know that, like Bhutan talks about gross national happiness, the happiest country in the world, etc. But Bhutan also has the distinction of being one of the highest per capita refugee generators in the world. And this story had to be told. And Bhutan to Blacktown, and Nepal is in between actually, because I spent time in Nepal. So Bhutan to Blacktown, losing everything and finding Australia, is the other half of Bhutan's story. And as the Prime Minister says in his foreword for the book, it is also a great Australian story. So yes, this is a story that had to be told because of what happened in Bhutan, and the world really doesn't know this story. So that was the reason I actually wrote the story.
That's a very interesting point.
And I think the second half of the question was what key takeaway.
Yeah, what is the key takeaway
Yes.
of the book for
Now,
readers?
I think every reader would have their own takeaway. But for me, as the author, I would like perhaps three key things that I want readers to take away. Given my own life, I think you cannot control what happens to you in life. I couldn't control, becoming a refugee. I was forced out of the country for various circumstances. So you cannot control what happens to you in life, but you can always choose to respond the way you want to. Secondly, we became refugees, but one thing we realized was it's not anger, it's not hatred, it's not a sense of revenge, but it's service to humanity in the face of adversity that can transform your life for the better. And finally, I want readers to take away not the bitterness of the injustices we suffered and all the sufferings that we experienced, but the sweetness of the learnings and gratitude for what we all have in this world. Thank you.
Wow, that is so inspiring. I mean, with the circumstances we have right now, your book could truly inspire a lot of youth readers, and we know who am I trying to target that.
Thank you.
Um, because with the three key points that you have given, like three takes one,
Yeah.
not I wouldn't only say just the youths, but also people who are still struggling to get
Yeah.
what they want and be where they want.
Mm.
You know, like your quote you have said,
Yeah.
it's not what happens to you, but how you respond that
Yeah.
defines you. It
Mm.
plays a very big role. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. And I
and
think to add to that, I think it's sometimes when we're wronged, when we are face injustice, we respond with anger and hatred, and that doesn't get you anywhere. Actually, you suffer even more. So we are already suffering as refugees.
yeah,
So why do we torture ourselves
with something,
by
yeah.
additional anger? Because anger is something that is so harmful to you, not to anybody.
And as you just said that, how has this philosophy influenced your work in community building?
Well, uh, I talk about strength-based approach. And it has come about for a reason. Now, let me perhaps take you back to our refugee days to talk about the influence it had on me. When we became refugees, when we fled our country and became refugees, we thought we lost everything. But very soon we realized that we hadn't lost the capacity to love and care for each other. Doctors and nurses who had fled the country, they started taking care of the sick, the elderly, and the children. Teachers started tree schools. And a lot of people ask me, what's tree schools? And we had to start classes under trees because we didn't even have any huts. So everybody, the carpenters and masons, everybody started helping and pitching in every way they could. And everybody else pitched in their own way. And we couldn't really apply for funding as we do here in Australia. We had to actually look at what people could do, what we could do each other, how could we support each other. We had to help mobilize that and support each other and look after each other. When we were very new, newly arrived in Nepal, we were having a meeting, community leaders meeting, and a young boy walked into the meeting and said he wanted to say something. So we said, please tell us. Said, I finished year 12. I want to be a doctor. I need help. So we all looked around each other. We are all equally helpless refugees. But what really got me thinking was one of my friend next to me, he pinched me and said, oh, maybe he doesn't know that he's a refugee. And that really hurt me, not just the pinching, but,
The
internally,
question,
the question
yeah.
really hurt me. I was thinking totally differently. Hey, this is, young refugee boy. We don't even know what we'll eat tomorrow. But here is
He
this guy
has
has the,
a plan.
yeah, he has this guts to think so big that, like he wants to be a doctor. So long story short, we asked him like, come over to my place and, bring your mark sheet. And he had done extremely well. So from the next day, we got together and started knocking different doors. We went to the University Teachers Association, we went to the Education Minister, we went to the Prime Minister, we went to the Cabinet, we knocked all the doors, and we finally managed to get admission for one refugee student in a agriculture campus, one refugee student in a medical campus, and one refugee student in engineering. So 3 professional
Wow.
courses each year. So he was one of the first ones who got admitted in a medical school. Now, fast forward that, a few years ago, his name is Prakash. Prakash visited us, not a young boy anymore. He came with his 2 young boys
Oh.
and a wife. So he and his wife with 2 children, they visited here in Blacktown in Sydney. And he's now a medical doctor and a professor and a practicing doctor in England. And he also trains emergency doctors in Nepal. and he does a lot of other voluntary work. So he's an amazing, he does amazing things now. So when I look at his journey and just his audacity to think, dream, like, to think so big or dream so big, and not only to dream big, but to share that dream. Because sometimes we keep our dream to ourselves, and it is simply a dream. It remains a dream. But for him to be able to have that courage to share that dream, it was very powerful. So I take a lot of lessons from him. So if it was him, I think he sort of, if he dared to be a doctor, coming from a refugee camp, that's when I thought, like, yes, I wanted to do an MBA. Now, if he could be a doctor, maybe I could do an MBA as well. So that's how I dreamed to do an MBA when I was a refugee.
Okay.
And I managed to make it happen as well. So he is.
Which year was this? Like, when you.
This was back in 1993. We started this conversation back in 93. So he got. Actually, I think we started, early 1993. And I still remember I got that letter of admission that, he was admitted to medical school in Kathmandu. I got that letter on 13th December. It was my birthday. So it was the biggest birthday present I've got in my life.
That is like that. Yeah, I mean, I can't believe Untani at that age, someone who really. It sounds like seize the day.
Mm.
The code itself.
Yeah.
Seizing the day. If he didn't come up and was like, this is what I want to do. Help me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's more like asking for help.
Yeah.
And I think many people, especially in Australia, youth are doing it because we're all starting from somewhere.
Yeah.
And you also started somewhere from very young age.
Yeah.
I started from very young age. And I'm pretty sure many of our listeners started somewhere in a very young age.
Yeah.
And I feel like people really find hard to ask for help or just even to reach out.
Yeah. That's the biggest problem we have
Before
for the generation.
It didn't felt like that. Before,
Yeah.
like you just said, this kid who just finished 12 came up to you guys and was like, look, this is what I want to do. I need your help.
Yeah.
People now would hesitate.
Yeah.
I don't
People
know,
have big dreams, but then
they have big dreams, but they don't know how.
Yeah.
It's like seizing your opportunity. You never know what stone you can turn and find gold.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I would say.
Mm.
So as we have talked about, building a bigger community circle. My next question would be like, what do you see as the biggest opportunity and challenges for communities like ours in building stronger connection and a support system?
Okay, that's a pretty,
Big question.
Big question. No, we could answer that in a simple way, but seeing what's happening around the world and here in Australia, I think we now live in a world that often highlights what divides us. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges we face today. And the challenge for us is to see, how do we step above that and then start seeing the truth. And the truth is, what unites us is far stronger than what divides us. So I'll repeat that, what unites us is far stronger than what divides us. And that's what I've seen all my life, like I've been a refugee, I've traveled around the world in different countries, and everywhere you see that, communities are built on what's common, what unites us. That's really strong. So I think that's our biggest challenge. And I think I would perhaps like to, seeing that challenge, I think I would like to put forward some 2 or 3 propositions, I would say, those are more of opportunities. Now, firstly, say, for example, I live in Blacktown, and I would give an example where we have been, working with the community to bring the community together to make our community stronger. Now, for people who don't know about Blacktown, Blacktown is a local government area, one of the largest local government area in Australia. Now, we have people from 188 countries of birth. 188 countries of birth. Wow. We speak 182 languages. How diverse can it be? We are so rich. And often we are defined differently. But we see that richness in our community. Now, if you start looking at what divides us, then we will be all falling apart. So, as Blacktown residents, or I live in a suburb called Fairwater. In Fairwater, it's a similar sort of diversity. So, as Fairwater residents, we want a safe neighborhood. That's common.
Yeah.
Wherever you come from,
You
we want
always
a
want
safe neighborhood.
Yeah.
We want our children to be playing with each other. Want our parents, elderly people, to be walking around, being safely and taken care of.
Yep.
We want a green neighborhood. We want a clean neighborhood. That's all common. That's common. That binds us together. We are all Fairwater residents first, because that's common for all of us. And that's our strong platform. Now, if this platform is not strong, both of us would collapse.
Yep.
So it's in our common interest to have this common platform strong. So I think what we need to start thinking is, we as human beings, there's something common. So first proposition I have is, maybe we need to start with what we have in common. And we bring our diversity and differences, which adds on top to the richness of who we are as a society. So our diversity, our differences are important. They add to the richness. Our momos, people love that.
Yes.
People call it gyoza in Japan. We call momos, and they have different names, but everybody loves them. Lebanese bread, everybody loves them. There are all these different foods that binds us all together. So we bring that richness on top, not the other way around. Yeah. Currently, we sort of, as multicultural Australia, we tend to think that we are multicultures, different cultures sitting in different, silos. That's not how we should be living. We should have that intercultural promotion, starting with what we have in common. Secondly, I think we start with what we already have. Because we tend to focus on what we don't have. There's always focus on what we don't have. I don't have this, I don't have that. I need this, I need that. Yes, we do that. But then at least we start with what we already have. I can start with what I have. Similarly, you can do the same thing. And then we can come together and see what we have together and start with what we have. And we build on our strengths. And we look at starting to identify strengths and assets within the community, help mobilize that, and build from that. So we don't ignore needs and problems in the community, but we simply flip that approach, focus on strengths, and then help address needs as well. So, that's the second thing I think we should be doing. I think we could do, rather. And thirdly, I think the problems, challenges we have in the community, I think I highlighted earlier as well. I think it's about, complex challenges in the community. Again, we need to work together. So that collaboration is the key. We move from a competitive mindset to collaborative mindset. When I worked in the corporate world, I was, a competitive intelligence manager. My role was to look at what competitors were doing. I knew everything about the competitors, so it was all about competition. So rather than looking at competitive intelligence, I now look at a collaborative intelligence. Where can we collaborate? What is that, circle of confluence, where our interests meet. So that's where we need to look at it. What's common? Where can we collaborate? It's not about competition. In the community, there shouldn't be any competition. There's no need to compete.
We should be working as one.
Working as one, and as a community together. Because if you divide the community, you keep them apart.
Yeah.
So I think those are the three things. One, start with what we have in common, or what we aspire in common. What kind of Australia we want. What kind of Sydney city we want. What kind of suburb we want. Is what are we aspiring for? Let's work towards that with something common. Secondly, let's start with what we have already, take that strength-based approach, flip from a need-based approach to a strength-based approach. And thirdly, how do we work together collaboratively to create a better and stronger community that we all aspire to?
Right. As you just mentioned, your three key important of being together and not being divided.
Yeah.
भत्किने त्यस्तो हुन्छ नि त केही
हजुर.
भनेर भन्नुभयो होइन. In this, I mean, this, I'm pretty sure this came up to you slowly.
Yeah.
You know, after
Yeah.
like reflection of many years, many ages. Then you looking back and go like, okay, this is what we can work on. This is what we
Yeah,
should be doing.
yeah.
Because Australia, you know,
Yeah.
didn't happen what happened today.
No. See, I've lost my hair thinking all that. So it wasn't easy. It wasn't
Exactly.
overnight.
It was a big milestone, you know, going from
Yes,
one
that's
change to
right.
another change, and then realizing that okay, we should be working as one and not just
Yeah.
a divided community. And like you said, you know, once thinking that we are divided into groups,
Yeah.
we won't be having one thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Working towards a goal means
Yeah.
working in groups.
Yeah. And in fact, I would tell you one quick example because somebody said that, you cannot, you don't let a crisis go to waste. So you don't let a crisis go to waste.
Okay.
Now, when COVID happened, like we don't like COVID,
No.
but there is a lot of learnings from it.
Oh yeah.
I love to take learnings from COVID. And when COVID hit, we immediately had, in Blacktown, we have a Western Sydney Community Leaders Forum, coordinated by Sidwest Multicultural Services in Blacktown. And, immediately after that, people were panicking. So, we were called into a meeting. We had a Zoom meeting. And the first meeting, second meeting, people are complaining about, what the government is not doing well. And, we need this, we need that, etc. But what was worrying was, people are asking for, we need vaccine for my community. And every community leader was saying, we need, vaccine for my community. And that got us thinking, and we had to really step back and say, what is our community? What about the elderly people next to her? What are the people who are not represented around the table?
Mm-hmm.
So we had to start thinking, hey, step back, guys. Let's think of, we have Blacktown community.
Think of it as a whole.
Think
not
of it
just
as a whole.
My or
and
yours.
whoever needs the most should get the vaccine. Not the one loudest. Because we are around the table, we may be able to lobby for the government to give us vaccines. But that's not how it should work. It's about the whoever needs the most should get the vaccine. So we have to really step back and say, hey, what does community mean for us? And then I think we really need to start thinking, all of us, when we talk about our communities, and how do we build that social capital? Building a social capital means, yes, we need to be bonding within the community. Say, if you take example of Nepali community, we need the Nepali community to come together to be bonding with each other. But then when you say social capital entails three different elements. So bonding, the second is breathing across communities. Are we engaging with other communities? Are there intercultural exchanges happening there? And thirdly, are we linking with service providers, with the government, different agencies that are working to build communities? So we have to focus on bonding, breathing, and linking together as well.
As you said, like COVID was a very big reflection to you. I think it's not only just per person, but like it's an eye-opening moment or situation or challenge for a lot of people, and a lot of people has learned a lot of things. Myself, I had an eye-opening situation. You had like as a community, you had to work all together and everything. As we're still talking about reflectioning into the past. My next question would be, if you would go back and speak to your younger self, time when you had hair in your head and everything, newly arrived in Australia, what advice would you be giving to yourself?
By the way, I'm still young.
No, I'm not saying you're not young.
Young at heart, of course.
Of course.
The numbers keep going. That's okay. Well, I'm very reluctant to give any advice to anybody because it's a conversation stopper. When you give advice to someone, it stops the conversation. Uncle said so and so. You just say, nod your head, and then nothing happens. But if it's to myself, my younger self, I can do that, I guess. If I were to give any advice or thoughts to my younger self, I think the first thing I would do is, I think, focus on things that I can influence and I can control. Why I say that is, when I arrived in this country, once again, I had to leave behind my little daughter. She was 8 years old. And every moment I was thinking about my daughter and my wife and my parents. My elderly parents were in the refugee camp. So, yes, I had come here to do an MBA, but the anxiety I was going through was unbearable. And there were many other factors because, like, my property back in Bhutan was taken by the government, and I was struggling to pay my tuition fees. Mentally struggling, living away from my close family and friends, etc. And it so happened that I just couldn't sleep for 5 nights as a stretch. And then next morning when I was coming to work, I used to work at Coles supermarket here. That's no more there.
Okay.
400 George Street, Coles Express, that's closed now. So I used to study at UTS. So I came in the morning, went to uni to do some work because I couldn't afford a laptop. So I always, came and worked in the university. So I worked in the morning, did some homework assignment in the computer lab, and then I was coming to work at Coles, and as I was crossing Liverpool Street, George Street and Liverpool Street, the crossing close by here, my vision started to blur, and I fell down. It was a busy street. Somebody actually pulled me and dragged me on the pavement and saved my life. And that person could have, really saved my life, but did certainly change my life forever. Because that was a moment I sort of stepped back and started reflecting when I came to senses. That night, the next few days, next few months, I started thinking, what if I had died that day? Would my daughter be proud to say that my dad collapsed and died? Or my parents had high hopes on me? They would have lost me and my wife. So it was all happening because I was really worrying about things I had absolutely no control of. And it was also impacting my studies and it's impacting other things. If I had worked 1 hour extra, I would get $10 extra. Because those days we used to get $10 an hour. And if I worked an extra hour, I would get $10 and I could call my daughter, make a phone call. Because those days it was very expensive to make a phone call even. So I think that gave me a biggest lesson that, first thing is focus on things that you can control and you can influence, and not too much on areas that you are concerned about. And I refer to, Dr. Stephen Covey has written a beautiful book called, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And this is one of the things he says, talks about circle of influence and circle of concern. So we tend to focus too much on circle of concern and waste all our energy where we could have utilized in doing something in that circle of influence. So the first thing is focus on things that you can really control and influence rather than just simply wasting your time and energy in circle of concern. Secondly, I want us to remember that we are mortal.
Yeah.
Sometimes we do things as if we are going to live here forever. We tend to interact with people, as if, we are going to live forever. Now, if I ever knew that, I'm mortal, would I ever pick up a fight with anybody? Because I could be gone next moment. So why would I pick up any fight with anybody? Why would I get angry? Because I may not be here the next moment. So I think if we simply every moment think that, hey, life is beautiful. The Creator has given this life to us. And if you are simply being grateful for what you have and, like the life that we have, I think it gives a lot of meaning to whatever you're doing. And we would not be wasting a lot of our time on one, complaining about what's not working. We start actually enjoying life that we have been given, because we don't even enjoy what we already have, because there's a lot of focus on what we don't have, what somebody else has. Because somebody has this, why not? And we talk about, this is our right. Every single day, tomorrow morning, 250,000 people don't wake up. They just have a natural death. And it could be any of us. So just to realize that we are mortal, and, to live every moment is very important. And finally, I think we were coming to, what going back to 25, back 25 years and all that. I think the lessons that I've learned is, I think one important lesson for our, next generation and your generation is, I think we are neither dependent nor independent. By nature, we are interdependent. We are, I don't know if, Elon Musk will agree with us, but, even the richest man in the world, he has to depend on many other people to
Something, yeah.
things happen,
Yeah.
so he cannot do things for himself, so just to realize that we are neither dependent nor independent. Sometimes we think that if I have this, then, I'll not care about this. Who cares, I've got this, I've got that. But at the end of the day, we are not independent. Whatever you have, you are always interdependent. So if you realize that, then it'll be easy to reach out for help. A lot of young people now don't go out for help. We go through a lot of mental health issues.
Yes.
We suffer internally,
Yep.
and we don't reach out for help. But it's okay. It's okay to be vulnerable. We all are. And just to realize that we are, again, like how strong you feel, you're not independent, you're not dependent all the time. Yes, when we were refugees, we thought we are dependent on everybody else. No, we were able, and there were other people who could help, we could help them. When I had nothing, I had the capacity to help other people. When I lost everything, that's when I started focusing on helping young people to go back to school and educate themselves. So I think that's one of the biggest realization our next generation need to have is, we are neither dependent nor independent. We are interdependent, and it's okay to ask for help. And so if you are struggling by yourself, just reach out
Seek
for help.
help.
And this is a beautiful country. This is people with heart of gold. You just reach out to somebody, they'll help you.
Right. Yes, that is totally correct. I mean, for not only our generation, but there are, a lot of youngs
Yeah.
who has a sort of this, I don't know, character or fear of asking, judgmental.
Yeah.
What if I, ask for help and then they judge me? What if I say this and then, they would say something about it,
Yeah.
cost anything? And the help doesn't have to come with some actions.
No.
Maybe just listen.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is it's an act of doing
Yeah.
something at least.
Yeah. And if somebody is not able to help, it's okay also. Like you don't know, but I come and ask you for help. You may not be able to help me. That's okay.
But I might know someone that
Yeah,
could help
or you
you out.
might, or you may not. Even if you decide not to do anything, I don't know your situation, right? So you may be going through something yourself. So again, when we don't get help, then people say that, oh, I asked for help, but he didn't help me, she didn't help me, and start getting angry, which is again harmful. So this is where we need to understand that we can't judge the other person. We don't know their situation. We may be asking for help, but that person may not be in a state of mind to help, or not in a situation to help. So I think that's really important as well, not to be judgmental.
And now that comes to my final question,
Yeah.
which is what is the legacy you hope to leave, both for the community and the future leaders more broadly?
Okay. What legacy we want to leave? I think we live in this beautiful world, which has so much to offer. And I think I will really go back to, starting like, we live, let's talk about Australia here. It's a multicultural, diverse country here. And every country is becoming that way, like we are multicultural, diverse in different ways. So very important for us to start looking at what's common. Let's focus, let's start with what we have in common. So if you can start that, I think that will be a great start. And, like people will start focusing on what we have in common, create that common platform, and then build from that. So to do that, I've started a fortnightly live conversation, online conversation. So we're having that conversation based on, how can we find that what's common? How can we start with what we are common? And then also start with what we already have, take that strength-based approach. And then finally, how can we work collaboratively to create something bigger and a bigger impact and a better world for us all?
Right. Thank you so much for your time and
Thank
for
you.
being able to join us in this podcast.
Thank you.
Your journey has truly inspired a lot of people, and I really hope that it continues inspiring a lot of new generation youths and everyone out there with your
Yeah.
book and with your words,
Yeah.
your wisdom and your journey with us today.
Yeah.
At the end.
Uh, Before ending, one thing I would like to share is, in my journey, 60 plus years journey, what I've found is every individual, whether you are begging on the street, Joe Street here in Sydney, or any situation, has inherent strengths and assets. Every individual, whatever the situation may be, has inherent strengths and assets. As a community, as a society, I see our role is to help nurture that and help them flourish. So I think with those words, I'd like to really thank you for having me on this podcast and hope the conversation helps a few other people. And like was my book. And hopefully the book would
Bhutan to
Bhutan to
Blacktown,
Blacktown.
yes.
Yes, there was Nepal in between. We spent some time there, but we had a short title, so it's Bhutan to Blacktown.
This podcast comes to an end. If you enjoyed today's podcast, make sure you like, follow, and subscribe. And we will be coming up with more podcasts like this for you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.